They are the experts. They are the ones that are designing this bridge and the footbridge, and they are assisting the town with all of our wetland protection. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott Brusso, who is the lead engineer for Weston and Sampson, and Scott can present the project and introduce his team. Scott, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Um, I'm Scott Brusso. I'm a structural engineer here at Weston and Sampson. And with me tonight is Alexandra Gaspar, who's one of our permitting specialists, and Cam Cabral, who's one of our civil engineers on this project. Um, is it any way I can share my screen to
Yeah,
show
go
the
ahead and try and
plans?
see if it works. And if you can't, let me know.
Okay, can everyone see at least the plan?
Yes.
Great, awesome. All right, so tonight we're presenting the replacement of the Grove Street Bridge over Center Brook. As you may be aware, the existing bridge is in relatively poor condition with a lot of spalling and deteriorating concrete along the spandrel edges and the bottom of the roof slab, and also along the curbs that support the existing railing. Uh, the bridge is also weight posted as well, um, so a new bridge is in order. The proposed bridge, it will consist of a new three-sided precast concrete frame, which will have a clear span of 16 feet and an overall bridge width of 27 feet, 3 inches. The proposed clear span is greater than the existing clear span of 13 foot 8 inches, and the overall bridge width is just 1 inch greater than the existing, which is 27 foot 2 inches. The bottom chord of the proposed bridge is at relatively well, it's slightly less than the existing bottom chord of the existing bridge. However, the overall hydraulic opening is greater than the existing. Um, so, so here you can see the proposed bridge. It's basically going to be in the footprint of the existing, of where the existing Grove Street Bridge is now. The alignment of the proposed bridge walls is slightly more skewed to align with the Center Brook better as well. So another part of this project entails utilities, as with every bridge project. Um, so what we'll be doing with this is there's an existing gas main that runs through the existing culvert that's actually through the hydraulic opening. So we're going to get that out of the hydraulic opening, and we're going to be putting it on the downstream end of the bridge. We will be extending some of the wing walls along the channel in order to support this gas main. There's also an existing 8-inch AC water main that goes under Center Brook downstream from the bridge. And as part of this project, we will be installing a new section of water main that will be supported on this existing or on the proposed retaining walls along the channel that'll be adjacent to the gas main as well. And then we will just we'll leave the AC pipe in place and abandoned in place, I should say. So the other utilities that are affected by this project is a 48-inch storm drain, which is the existing, goes from a manhole just here on the west side of the bridge, or I should say the north side of the bridge, and outlets currently through an existing concrete head wall just on the downstream end. So in order to construct the new bridge, we're going to temporarily bypass the flow, and we will be reinstalling the 48-inch with a new manhole here and a new alignment, and it'll roughly be in about the same location or outletting in the same location as the existing 48-inch pipe. The other drainage that will be affected is there's currently a 12-inch CMP pipe on the upstream side of the bridge that flows from this existing catch basin. We will be installing a new proposed catch basin as the profile of the roadway will be slightly adjusted. And we will be installing a new catch basin here at the new proposed low point and providing just a new drain line on the upstream side of the bridge. One thing I forgot to mention too is during the construction, we will need to remove and relocate the gas main temporarily, and we intend to do that along the downstream edge of the bridge, about 15, 20 feet away from the proposed construction with a temporary utility bridge here. So you can see the proposed temporary layout of the gas main as well on the downstream end. The other part of this project too is a separate proposed pedestrian bridge, which will be on the upstream side of the proposed Grove Street Bridge. This will be connecting to the sidewalk that'll be part of a larger project as part of the Mass DOT project just to the north side. This pedestrian bridge will be offset probably approximately 6 feet or so from the edge of the proposed Grove Street Bridge, and will provide access over Center Brook. The proposed bridge is to be a pedestrian bridge, is to be a truss type bridge, spanning like as I said, 34 foot 8 inch, completely over the Center Brook with a low chord of 28.6.02, so well above the design storm elevation too. And it will be 6 foot wide overall, or clear width. And this will be, as I said, a prefabricated truss type bridge. There will be some small embankments that will need to be constructed, that will be constructed with some segmental block retaining walls to adjust for the grade on the approach on the north side of the pedestrian bridge. With that introduction, I'm going to bring it over, or I'm going to have Alex Gaspar just go and talk about the impacts of the proposed project. And Alex, let me know what sheet you'd like me to go on. I just put it on the environmental compliance sheet.
Yep, I think this sheet makes sense. Yep, so I am Alex Gaspar, the permitting specialist for the project. As part of this project, we're anticipating impacts to the 100-foot buffer, riverfront area, bank, and land underwater, with a little bit of dredging included as well. So for riverfront area, as you saw in the notice of intent, we're proposing a little under 15,000 square feet of impact. For bank, we are anticipating all temporary impact, and that number is about 144. That's due to the proposed regrading and the installation of head walls. For land underwater, we're anticipating 745 square feet temporary with just 5 square feet of permanent impact. And these are just due to the bridge installation and the footing and the structure. Proposed, you can see the compost filter tubes sort of surrounding the limit of work to prevent any flow into that wetland area that we have on the west side of the road, flagged by the WFA series. Also have silt curtain that I believe is called out again on the west side, and inlet sediment control as needed. I believe that is it. We are staying under 100 cubic yards of dredging. So we are not, I believe it's mid 60 cubic yards of dredging. So not anticipating the need for a 401 water quality cert. But yep, that covers it for the impacts as part of this project.
And I'm just going to add too that as part of this project, and speaking with Dennis, we are aware that the planting plan from the community center is to be part of this project. So we we will incorporate the planting plans, and we do understand that the proposed pedestrian bridge will be impacting one of the proposed trees. So we would be looking as part of this project to just relocate that tree into another area along this limit. So so with that, Alex, if there's, I don't know if you have anything more to add on this planting plan. If not, then I guess we just open it up to questions that you may have, the commission may have.
Yeah, I think
anyone,
we're going to open it up to questions.
does anyone on this question have a question? Or Mary, do you have any questions?
I had a few comments that they're not huge, but I was just wondering about the riverfront area alterations. It wasn't delineated on the plan that I could tell. Maybe you could just kind of I was wondering if you would shade that area or something like that, but I don't think that's required, but that was a question I had. And I noticed that the floodplain, it was included. The FEMA map was included, but it has not been included on this. So again, that's probably not a huge deal, but bordering land subject to flooding is a resource area, so probably should be included on these plans.
Yeah, I believe we are just outside. We are outside of the 100-year floodplain. I believe it's a little farther back from our site. It's just the piece where we are working is regulatory floodway. But it's all sort of, I think it falls outside of, it's all like within the water. So it's
right. Yeah, it looked like the floodplain maybe is a little bit to the south. I just wasn't sure exactly where it would show up if it was overlaid.
okay.
Yeah, and I was just curious. So there's no plantings for this specific, for the riverfront alterations in this specific notice of intent. The planting plan was as a carryover from the community center, so that had to be done, and that was addressing alterations in the riverfront area for the community center. So I was just curious if there was any riverfront mitigation for this project. I know it's extremely tight. So I was looking around, it's a very tight area.
I don't believe we had proposed any mitigation. I think, a lot of this is returning to sort of existing condition following construction, but I don't think we had anticipated there being space for proper mitigation. Scott, I don't know if you had.
No, we had not anticipated mitigation at this point. We were under the assumption about the community center that planting plan would kind of take that, whatever mitigation was required for this project would kind of fall under that, since we're in the same area. But if that's something that the commission is looking for, some relative mitigation, that's something we could look into.
Yeah, and maybe one idea, I don't know whether you guys got a chance to look at the report that I sent out. It was kind of, a lot of it, of course, is what you had, just reporting on what you had done. But one thing we did for the Fowler Street Bridge is we asked for, in the riprap sections, for plantings to be done. And we do have a detail on that from that project that we could send over to you. if that's something that's just a small piece of mitigation, but that would help in the riprap areas that are proposed on the bank.
That would be great if you want to send that detail over.
Yeah. And I'm curious, I'm just curious about the dredging. I guess that's required because you have to get way down in the stream to get at the foundation of the bridge.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and the only other thing I noted was that on the south side of Grove Street, the south, I guess that would be west, where there is no outlet in the street, but there's a lot of road drainage heading off into the wetland there. There's a lot of sedimentation, and I was just wondering if, you know, once the new bridge is in, whether the road is going to be, or whether it's going to be, you know, slanted so everything goes to that other, you know, inlet, or whether it's still going to continue to be a problem where there's a lot of runoff going there causing erosion and sedimentation. So it was a question I had.
The intent right now is to maintain the country drainage on this side of the roadway. We could control that. We could provide, you know, we could provide a low point on this end with just, you know, just a slightly paved swale, just ever so minimal off the shoulder, leading to a more like stone swale to kind of filter out some of that sediment. If that would address that issue on that side, but at this point, we just felt the country drainage would be the best for this area on this side.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an issue there, but it's not huge. So, and I'm not sure where all the dirt is coming from.
It may have been from the utility pole replacement.
Okay.
You know, from when I've been out on site, that's what it seems like to us. But because I don't see where it would be coming from up on Grove Street. So
Mary, are you requesting that we add this to the plan? I just want to be clear so that when we're done with this meeting, the changes or the things that the board would like, the commission would like to see added to this plan are done 100%.
Yeah, so these are my comments, and the commission, of course, will have to, you know, see what they have to say. Yeah, I think maybe a little something should be done there, or maybe it just needs to be cleaned up. But you know, right now there's a fair bit of sedimentation that kind of got down into a little bit into the wetland. Not bad, but it's definitely a little bit of a runoff problem there.
And which side is this again? Where are we?
So it's on the wetland side. Right, there's a little low point. I have pictures in my report, but
it's right around where the utility pole is, Dennis.
Yeah, because I'm not aware of typically seeing sedimentation down in that area, except for when they just replaced this pole. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, and it could be just from the last two storms. I don't know. I mean, it just.
Well, those were doozies.
Yeah. So, because I hadn't really examined this area very carefully before, so I wasn't really familiar with whether this is an outstanding continuous problem or whether this is just recent. So. Yeah, and I know, and you know, there's minor things like there's still erosion controls from some other project, which I'm sure you guys will clean up and get rid of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have
Yes.
other questions from the question?
This is Dave from the Concom. I just had a quick question. Is there anything specified in there about after the dredging, what the substrate might look like in the channel there, in terms of replacing that with some rock or cobble or anything like that?
So the dredging would be very limited. We will be installing sheet piling around the proposed abutments. So we will minimize the the disturbance to the stream bed. But yes, on the backfilling, we intend to save, stockpile some of the existing stream bed material to be used on the top layer as we backfill. So I can. Let me see. So when we construct it, we'll have these sheet pilings to just minimize the excavation and to provide excavation support. But when we go and backfill, these areas, we were hoping to utilize the stockpiled stream bed material in here, and these sheet pilings would be cut down below, at least 2 feet below the bottom of the stream bed. So
sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Dennis, I had a question. That 48-inch pipe that's coming into the stream there, is that the little intermittent stream that runs by Town Hall that goes under the road there?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
That goes all the way across the 140 intersection and adjacent to Town Hall parking lot, which is why we were so worried about any heavy rains or floods blocking that channel with the debris that was in the area. If you recall, I came before the commission. Yeah. And we cleaned that up, and we left some as requested by the commission on the higher banks. And once you know what, that storm we had, the one before this last one, got high enough in there where it floated that dead wood. But we got lucky, and it got blocked by some trees and didn't make it down to the culvert. Mm-hmm. And we have since removed it, but it was touch and go there for a little bit. Once it gets into that culvert, that's such a long span, there's no way to rectify that without ripping the road up.
Right. Yeah, and go ahead, Mike.
Well, Dennis, I did have a question about the culvert. It's a 48-inch culvert. From a kind of an MVP standpoint, do we know if that culvert is undersized or not?
No, it seems to be adequate in size, and it's not a culvert for the entire length of it, Mike. It's from the parking lot, it's a stone culvert to about the halfway point of 140, and then it connects to an RCP the rest of the way.
Okay, but based on the drainage area of that stream, is the 48 is the whatever the constriction is, the 48-inch culvert perhaps is that adequate to
yeah. It's okay. A great question, and I agree with your concerns. And you know what? We were fortunate enough to see the proof is in the pudding. We had a 5-inch storm and then a 3-inch right behind it, with another inch from the residual snow that was left behind. So you basically had a 5-inch storm, and then within the same week you had a 4-inch storm, and we had no flooding. That culvert handled it all. Nothing went over the walls.
I think it was Hurricane Diane. I may have the name wrong. Back in the 50s, it was like about a 15-inch storm. So fortunately, none of us were around to worry about that. But I'm just wondering, because I mean, if there was any concern about the size of that culvert, now might be the time to make it a little bigger when you're building. Make the end of it a little bit larger.
It was one of the items that was looked at by District 3 as they were doing the engineering for the TIP project. They also took a hard look at that because, as you know, they are planning on replacing the bridge right before the community center. That's their project, their second project that'll come up. And the TIP will be the third project. The first one is a mill and overlay, starts at Elm Street and goes all the way to the town line. And then the second one is going to be the culvert. And the third one is, I'm sorry, I got it backwards. The second one is the TIP project, which goes from William Street to Elm Street. And then the last project is the culvert itself, the bridge. The MassDOT will be replacing that. So they took a look at those calculations. Okay. They didn't feel as though it needed to be augmented in any way.
Okay, thank you. Scott, I do have another couple questions if no one else has one. Okay, one is just the sediment that's going to be removed. Are you going to test it and make sure it's disposed properly?
The sediment from the dewatering, or
yeah, the material that's excavated from the stream channel.
Yes, I believe as part of our specs, most soil is just tested before.
The reason I'm asking is the former owner of the Grove Street lot was there for probably decades. So, yeah, that area where you're, yeah. So anyway, I would recommend just to cover everyone's interest is to if there's any fine grained material to test it. Let's see what else. Oh, one of the plan views showed a tree not too far away from the work area, an existing tree. It wasn't this plan view; it was another one.
The planting plan?
No, well, it could have been on the planting plan, but this one. Is that an existing tree?
This is an existing tree, yes.
Any measures to protect that tree, or I what's the status of that tree? Is it, you know what it is and what kind of shape it's in?
I'm not I don't know what kind of condition it is in. It's there. I think the intent is to work around it with the temporary gas main, but that's and to maintain it through the project. But that is a good question.
Might consider having a contingency if that tree can't be saved, or if it's damaged, to replace it someplace.
Okay.
And then my last question has to do with the pedestrian walkway. The Commission, Land Stewardship Committee, just this last weekend, we rehabbed a trail bridge, a boardwalk at one of our conservation areas, and we used fiber reinforced polymorph grading. Part of that, I looked into this material a little bit, and I was just curious. It looks like the proposed surface of the pedestrian bridge is concrete. Do I have that right? And I was just wondering if you considered any other potential surfaces like RFP grading, perhaps.
We considered other like decking materials, more as wood or composite, not specifically the FRP grading, but we feel from a durability, service life standpoint that the concrete deck would be most appropriate here, and even from a snow removal aspect, it'd be preferable. So those are the main reasons we were going with the concrete deck.
So Mike, as part of DPW, our snow removal on sidewalks, because we do so many in town, we use a piece of equipment, not a snow blower from Walk Behind. It's a sizable piece of equipment. So when we asked the designers to consider the footbridge, we asked them to take into consideration the equipment that we would be utilizing to clear that bridge.
It's my understanding that this RFP panels can support a tractor, basically a small tractor. We were shown when we were deciding whether or not to use it at Warren Brook, we were shown some pictures of a small tractor with a backhoe, traversing this material. You might want to just, if you haven't considered this material at all as one of your alternatives to concrete, you might want to just take a look at it, what's out there in terms of, potential alternatives. It's supposed to be extremely durable. It might be more durable than concrete, but no expert here. I'm just tossing that out.
Do you know the name of the product you were you looked at?
I can get that to you. Yeah, I can get that to Mary. And actually, from a snow standpoint, I thought it might have some advantages because the snow would just melt through the grate. But I don't know. That's it. Again, not an expert by any means in this topic. So.
And Scott, this is Chris. I was wondering if you got all the green cards back.
Alex.
Yep, we've
we did.
received the majority of the green cards back. And I can email those over to Mary tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Do you have any other questions from the commission or the audience?
Is this gonna need, I forgot to ask, a chapter 91 dredging permit?
Yep, this is we're anticipating needing a chapter 91, I believe.
And at this time, there's no DEP number, so this needs to be continued. And,
No DEP number, correct?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And Mary, do we have to do another filing for the chapter 91 permit?
No, they'll do that. That's their, I
Okay.
just wanted to know.
Okay.
Make
Okay.
sure they send us a copy of it or whatever.
Okay, thank you. So if there are no other questions for right now, we can continue this hearing until our next meeting on the, was it, the 10th?
January 24th.
So. So Mary, what time would you for this?
Well, our next meeting is filling up. Maybe 7:20.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll squeak it in.
Okay. Sounds good. So 7:20 on the 24th. Okay, so that's our continuation to 7:20, the 24th.
Scott, are you clear with everything the commission requested?
We have the letter, so we intend to get all the responses back. And our intention would be to get it back to you. What's the 24th? So how soon or how many days before the next hearing would you like to have a response back?
I think we have I can't remember what our policy is, but I think
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 days is good.
Okay. So I think I'm clear, and if not, I mean, Dennis, I guess we can just reach out in the meantime,
If you have questions, then I'll contact Mary and make sure that we're clear on all the requests. I just want to make sure that the plans they represent everything that the commission had questions about, and we don't miss any.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. So
All right, thank you.
24th. Okay, and Mary, at 7:30, we have Upton Bridge discussion of progress towards the COC and baseline report.
Yeah, so I scheduled them and then I forgot to reach out to Mark until today. And so of course he said, oops, can I have more time? So he is now on next meeting's agenda.
Okay.
And
what time?
I put him down for 8 o'clock. Yeah, our next agenda, because we have 2 RDAs that came in. So one's at 7:30 and one's at 8:15.
Okay. So, thinking that you will not be here, we should probably go through our other items and talk about our reports. We have the administrator's report.
All right. Okay, so I was down at the sawmill and met with Maura Garner. We had extensive complaints from a neighbor who wrote a very long, which I think I forwarded to you, and strong letter of concern. And so did a site visit just to see what they're doing. So she's going to appear at the next meeting, so we can mainly talk about it then. I didn't see anything that was any imminent danger to any wetland or resource area. It's all very, we'll just have to figure out, how we want to deal with all the logs and where we're going to ask, what they're allowed to do with that. If maybe they should file a determination for just stockpiling stuff there. I mean, that's, something that the board just needs to consider. And we had asked them to contact Natural Heritage, and I'm not sure what kind of conversation she had with them. Natural Heritage, it didn't sound like they said anything conclusive about them needing to file for the type of work they were doing. But I wasn't sure. I felt like maybe I should follow up with them. So I called Natural Heritage and left a message to see if I could get more information to see what type of filing they would like to see there. The owner, as a follow-up, the owner of the land called to say that he now has his land under agricultural exemption for forestry. And so he feels like he should be exempt from any conservation review. I'm not sure that a sawmill qualifies as agriculture, although I imagine, so I need to look into that more to see if he really does qualify for that. So.
He did, this is Bill, he did, now that you say that, I believe he's applied, maybe have been approved under a forestry plan.
Yes.
So, yeah. And it, oddly enough, I think it's virtually the whole property.
Yeah.
That was signed off by a forester.
Right. Yeah, and they do have little trees that they've planted there, a bunch of little trees. But I would say, in the area that's being used, 90% of it is being used for their sawmill operation. And then there's a couple lines of trees, which are, that's good. So that's what it is.
Yeah, I would suggest that you contact Val.
Okay.
Ask her for a copy of the plan.
Yeah.
Because then you'll know what's been approved by the state.
Okay.
There are some guidelines for forestry activities in rare species habitat. So I'm just wondering if there's anything specific for wood turtle habitat.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't particularly think, I personally don't agree with the interpretation that he's exempt from all permitting just because it's in Chapter 61. I don't think that's correct. But.
Certainly nothing in the law that suggests that.
Yeah.
Would it be worthwhile to call the DEP and see what they say? Or have you already done that?
No, I haven't. And I haven't really sat down and researched this question either. But
right.
yeah, I could do a little research and I could call them up. They might be able to tell me off the top of their head in 3 minutes.
Right.
Nice.
Save yourself some research time, I thought.
Yeah, it's a good idea. All right. And then the other call I fielded today was from John Rose of 10 Warren Street. And I think I told you guys he had called a few weeks ago, the last time it rained. And so his property is at the corner of Warren and School Street, and he's next to that wet property. And then beyond the wet property is 17 School, which is Bill Andrews' new house that he's constructing. And last meeting, or a couple meetings ago, we approved, or we talked about his, the fact that he needed to disturb more wetland because of putting his sewer pipe in. Well, Mr. Rose has, after this all has happened and after all our permitting done, he said, oh, I think Bill must have crushed the pipe that we had in the wetland, which drained the wetland and went to the culvert that goes under the road. And that's why the flooding is so bad. It's never, ever been this bad. So that's his thing. And I did talk to him for quite a while. And I guess Bill did see there was some kind of corrugated metal pipe in there. It's not a DPW thing, I don't think, because he sounds like that the two neighbors put it in like 30 years ago, which I thought was interesting because I was remembering the dye test story and the connectivity and whatever. So I'm not sure how much that pipe was doing, but it seems like it was disturbed. And then the question is, it's more of a neighbor dispute, I would say, between Bill and him. But if they were to replace it, they would obviously need to go before us for permitting. And then what kind of guidance would we give them is going to be the issue down the road. So we just had this phone call today. Haven't gotten very far with it.
Yeah,
but,
so I talked to him as well.
Yeah.
And so you can help me. So the way I understood it is there is a pipe that runs under School Street.
Yes.
Okay. And actually, so the water drains from behind his place under School Street to the other side of School Street.
Yep.
Okay. I thought it drained the other way, but okay. I got confused where his place was. So he's he's one of the houses across from the police station.
Yes.
Probably the one across on the other side of the intersection.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. He's on that. Yeah. And his, yeah, I was a little confused too, because the pipe under School Street, and I looked at Bill Andrews' plans, and it does show that pipe on his plans, the one going under School Street. But the engineers never found, I mean, it sounds like this pipe went, I don't know how many feet, 30 feet into the private property and connected to the wetland and somehow kept it from overflowing. That's what he described. And now it's been crushed, according to him. So, there's no plans for that pipe. There's no documentation except that Bill, he says there's pieces of it sitting in Bill's yard. Okay, well, that's proof. But,
well, I will check tomorrow to see if it's on the DPW's stormwater map.
Okay.
Because then it's ours.
Yes.
And we'd be responsible. Now, if you're telling me it extends beyond the right of way.
I think it did.
Okay, well, that makes it a completely different, unless there's an easement that the DPW has to manage it outside of the right of way.
Yeah, it sounds like the homeowners installed it many, many years ago. So it didn't seem like it would be a DPW thing.
Well, if they went under the road, they did it with the knowledge of the DPW at least.
Right. Well, no, I don't think it went under the road though. It sounds like it went from the wetland and then it went straight to next to the culvert to catch it to go under the road.
Oh, so he's complaining about that pipe, not the culvert.
Not the culvert under the road.
All right. Well, the only thing the DPW can do is be sure that the culvert is working.
Right. And I think that would be a good, and even I kept thinking, well, if as long as the culvert's working, I don't know why it should be backing up. That was my question. But he says there's a raise in the land, and so it makes it flood. And that makes sense, I guess. So.
Well, yeah, and the culvert could be overwhelmed. It could be undersized for a 5-inch storm.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And we did talk about the fact that, this is a huge storm, and maybe that's another reason. But he says he's getting water in his basement, of course, so that's not very pleasant.
Yep.
So.
Mary, just one thing. That lot, I think we used to call it Lot 110. It is. I've seen an old plan that shows that called a detention basin. That lot.
Oh, interesting.
So I'll see if I can find that. It goes way back. If there's probably a whole file for lot 110 in town hall. The plan may be there, but maybe it'll show a culvert.
Okay.
You know,
What number of School Street is this?
it was, I believe it was 110, if I remember right. And Sandy, remember it's somebody bought it for a couple $1,000 and was trying to basically say that it was a buildable lot. And Steve Minicello, who was in a butter,
Yep.
basically went to battle with, and it went on for months, and eventually the DP got involved, and that's why they did that dye test. Corps of Engineers came out to look at wetland delineation. It was a big, remember that?
It's ringing a bell.
Back in the 90s, maybe, or late 80s.
Yeah, if I see the property, it would come
Ancient
back
history.
to me.
But anyway, there is a plan. It was that clearly delineates it as a detention
Yeah,
basin.
110. Yep.
110. So we'll see if we can find that plan. It might be recorded somewhere, but even then, like I said before, what I recall, even then, the dye test didn't show a connection. Although there has to be some flow through that culvert, or you'd have a big flooding problem. But when the DP did the dye test, they didn't see any flow. But there's got to be something. The culvert can't be completely plugged, or there'd be a bigger problem than there is now.
And that's pretty much it. I'll let Mike and Bill, we can talk about the Wildwood later, but Wildwood land. Yeah, and all my pictures are about the sawmill, and we'll look at that next meeting.
Okay.
Although I did take some pictures of the water under the Grove Street Bridge today in flood, and that was interesting. So that's at the end of my report if you want to look at that.
Well, thank you. And how about the administrative report?
We have one set of minutes to approve, the previous meeting, December 27th, which I did from the recording.
Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Alan, aye.
Mike, aye.
Sandy, aye.
Okay. Do we have any other members of the commission to vote?
Do we have a quorum? 1, 2.
We do. 4 is a
Okay.
quorum. So we have a unanimous vote of the 4 members present. So that is fine.
5 present, I think, right? Am I not counting right?
There's me, Mike, Dave, Sandy, and 5. 5 present. So we have a quorum plus 1.
And then second, for backlog minutes, we are all finished with them other than the 2 sets from July of 2022. And again, there is no recording for those minutes. So what I did was I pulled the items that were listed on the agenda and then just listed them out for both meetings. This afternoon, Mary and I were discussing the different ways in which we can go about this. We mentioned I can either send out the blank sets of minutes to the commission, and the commission can see if they remember and see if they want to fill in the blanks. Or I could also schedule a meeting with one or two members that might feel like they can adequately speak to that meeting.
Or we also mentioned the fact that since it's been so long, maybe we just leave it as a whole in our record, which is unfortunate, but that might be the only way to accurately, I'm not sure that we would be able to accurately portray what happened.
Yeah.
A year and a half
This
ago.
is Mike. I can agree with that approach. I couldn't remember anything about those meetings personally, but are there packets available for those two meetings? Maybe they could be referenced. And maybe like in the meeting minutes for this meeting, we could say that those old meeting minutes were discussed and we decided to forego trying to recreate any minutes for those meetings, and maybe note the existence of the agendas. And there probably were packets, right, for those meetings?
I believe there are, yes.
So maybe just reference the packets as well. I don't know. That's all I got on that. But
yeah, because we couldn't recreate any votes or anything. We wouldn't be able to put down any motions or votes.
Yeah.
I agree with Mike's approach.
Works for me.
And next we have one expenditure to approve. We had an invoice come in from Gatehouse Media for advertisements.
Can we vote? If we have a motion to pay our bills.
So moved.
How is a second?
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Alan, aye.
Sandy, aye.
Mike, aye.
Yes, vote of the official present.
Chris, I had one more thing that I forgot.
All right.
If you don't mind.
No, go right ahead.
Are you all set, Grace?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay. I think I brought up last meeting about 28 Hartford Ave, which the Affordable Housing Trust would like to put, well, they want to do a project there. And the first portion of this project will be to demolish the existing house, which has not been used for many years. There is wetland on the property. The house is approximately 50 feet from the wetland. And to do the demolition, I recommended to them that request for determination would probably be adequate, and that they could later come back with an NOI because they don't have any plans yet for the actual construction. But Mike just wanted me to run that past the board to make sure you all agreed that a request for determination would be the appropriate thing. The project does involve, so there's wetland on the street side, the driveway crosses the wetland, and then it's a small house. So that's kind of the issues with it. Pat is real concerned about what kind of sewer connection they had, or whether it's just a cesspool or whatever. But
well, we charged them for sewer, so I'm hoping they had it.
Okay. So I thought a request for determination would be adequate just for the demolition. But if you guys wanted something else, that's up to you guys.
Just say again where this is, 28.
This is 28 Hartford Ave.
Hartford Ave, okay.
I could probably bring it up. It's a little house. It's the lot is mostly wooded, little tiny. It's a small lot on Hartford Ave.
Yeah, it's just south of Breton Road.
Oh,
It's in the backyard of the house at the corner of Breton and Hartford Ave.
thank you.
So I agree, Mary, that our day would be appropriate. Do we need a voice vote?
I think perhaps the Affordable Housing Trust might appreciate that.
We have a motion to have a voice vote on the proposal of an RDA at 28 Hartford Ave.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second,
Okay, Chris, aye.
Alan, aye.
Sandy, I.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote of the members present. So we're back to work, Grace.
What was that, Chris?
I'm going back to your report.
Oh, I'm all set.
Okay, and then how about our financial update?
Yeah, I think Grace just did that.
Okay,
And
I didn't show the balance sheet if you'd like me
oh,
to
that's right. Good.
show that.
that would be good to see.
Where is it?
Does anyone have questions about the balance sheet? Hearing none, thank you, Grace. And let's go over to open space committee.
All right. We met with the Community Preservation Committee to talk about the opportunity to preserve the backland on Mechanic Street at I think 47 or 49, I forget. But in any case, and told them that we would like to submit a request at the annual town meeting for funding for the any basically legal and engineering survey costs associated with acquiring the property. We thought otherwise we'd be able to raise money and then have either Metacomet or the Conservation Commission acquire the property, and one party would acquire the property, the other party would acquire the restriction. However, okay, so that's where we stand with that, and I'm going to meet with the Metacomet Land Trust board to talk with them about how they might like to structure a transaction in terms of who holds the CR and who owns the land. So that's where we stand with that. I also met with the town manager to talk a little bit about the Wildwood opportunity. And we had some discussion about asking the Conservation Commission to fund the appraisal. And I'm going to add one more thing before we talk about the appraisal. I was copied on an email from Sally Kent, who's a member of the Lakes and Ponds Committee, and she talked to one of the owners of the land. There's three owners, and they're very anxious to sell. And then she talked to Val in the assessor's office and told her the same thing. So the bottom line, I think, is that the family is very anxious to sell the property. So I think time is of the essence. So in that respect, it would be really helpful if we could start the appraisal immediately. And the other thing is I intend to talk to Joe Layden, the town manager, about adding at least a placeholder for an article to use community preservation funds to acquire the property, because that would permit us to acquire it after the May meeting if we got through all the steps. So I'm going to need to come back. I don't need you to tell me whether or not that's a good idea or a bad idea now. I think it's something that needs to be on the agenda. I'm just telling you I'm going to do that so that we can do it if everybody agrees that that's the right thing to do. But so for this evening, it would be helpful if you decided on whether or not you're willing to fund the appraisal.
No, that come from the conservation fund.
I believe it would.
Okay, do we have any discussions about that?
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the Open Space Committee to obtain an appraisal for the Lake Wildwood parcels using up to $10,000 from the Conservation Fund.
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Alan, aye.
Andy,
David.
aye.
David, I.
Like,
So we have a unanimous vote of the commission to
Thank you.
fund the appraisal.
Bill, should we also just, I'd like to make a motion too that we would encourage the Community Preservation Committee to place a placeholder for acquisition of the Wildwood property on the town meeting warrant.
Unfortunately,
Second.
the next time they meet is after the warrant closes.
That's true.
So at this point, I just need to have a placeholder on there, and if no one agrees that they want to do it, we'll just take it off.
Okay.
But it's better if it's there. And
Okay.
I'm hoping that Mr. Layden will agree with that.
Okay.
Do a second about putting a placeholder on.
Chris, I'll withdraw it then. You know. Okay, it's no problem. Okay.
So Bill, is there anything else you need from us?
From an open, no, I'm good. That's all I have for open space.
Thank you. Now, let's search it for me. I know Marcella might be joining us toward the end.
She's not here yet, so I just have a couple of things to say on her behalf.
Okay, thank you.
So we finished rebuilding, rehabbing, whatever, the bridge at Warren Brook Watershed Conservation Area. It's a phenomenal job. We had an overwhelming turnout from people up in the Land Stewardship Committee. We had people from the New England Mountain Biking Association and people from the Bay State Trail Riders Association. In fact, we had so many people that several people got to go do trail work, and we got all the trails cleared from the blowdowns. So in any case, it took us about 4 hours to finish the bridge. It looks like it'll last forever. So that was very gratifying, and we're very thankful for all the help we got.
Now, the pictures that went around would be great to have on our website.
Oh.
Yeah, we can forward those.
Okay, so I think they would go to Grace. Okay, now, next thing we have is the warrant article. Articles for the annual town meeting. Do we have anything for that? I know we usually have the regular funds for different articles. So, Mary, do you have a copy of what we've submitted before?
Yeah, for the funding, yes, I'll make sure that gets on there, the $5,000.
Right.
The Conservation Fund for 5, and then the revolving accounts.
Right.
Okay.
And how about naming conservation areas, Mechanic Street and Peppercorn Parcel?
Well, that's on there for me. I was just wondering, this is especially the Mechanic Street parcel, since we've been working on this various ways for pretty heavily. I mean, I guess we could just end up calling it Mechanic Street Conservation Area, but might be an opportunity to think about other potential names. I was wondering maybe we could reach out to the Historical Commission, like we did for Pleasant Woods a long time ago, asking if they have any suggestions. I think one time the land was owned by Captain Baker. Bill probably knows more about this than I do, but he was a Revolutionary War commander from Upton. But it was part of the land. From what I could tell, part of the land was his, where it was owned by him. It's kind of on the slopes of George Hill, maybe George Hill, but I don't know. I guess the question is, do we want to reach out and try to come up with some potential names other than just Mechanic Street Conservation Area? And if that's the case, I would probably start with the Historical Commission, unless Concom can come up with some ideas too.
I agree with you, Mike. So, does anyone else have comments about Mechanic Street reaching out to Historical?
No, I think that's a good idea, Mike. If you didn't want to name it for the Hendersons.
Well, that's a question,
I mean, they're the ones that, if they hadn't prodded us, we wouldn't have bought it. So.
Yeah, they were the most recent owners for many years.
But I like the historical idea myself. You have to have a write-up on this Baker person, advertise it.
Yeah, it was. I just read, there's a little bit about him in one of the Upton historical books. Apparently, he organized the militia in town to go off to somewhere in Rhode Island for a battle, and the battle never happened. But he was like the organizer for that. This is during the Revolutionary War time. And then I imagine Baker Pond is just guessing it's probably named after him, because
yeah, that's probably right.
Anyway, I can send an email to Historical and see if they have any thoughts on it.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And how about Peppercorn?
Especially let's just pass on that one. Maybe we can just start with Mechanic Street. There is one of the 4 parcels at Peppercorn is unnamed right now that we purchased at Peppercorn, or that were preserved at Peppercorn. Okay. The one with the overview is unnamed currently.
Now, how about proposed revisions to the Wetlands Protection Act, public hearing, and town period?
I put that on there just as an FYI. I think Mike, that's what you were wanting. Chris was saying, "Oh, Mike wants something on there." Is this? I thought that's what it was.
Yeah. There's the DP is proposing some modifications to the wetland protection regs, and it might be worth looking through. I was interested in looking through it to see if there's any place we could comment about the old boardwalk situation. There may not be. The only sections that they're accepting comments on are the sections that they're revising, and I just haven't looked at all the proposed revisions to see if there's someplace we could maybe sneak in something about the boardwalk impact questions. Anyway, if anyone else wants to take a look at those edits, I think it's a good time. I imagine MACC is going to be commenting on it.
Yeah, and they're doing a couple information sessions where you can sit and listen to what they're doing, if that's an easier way to digest the information.
Yeah. Could you send people around a link for those sessions?
Yes, I can
Thank
do
you.
that. I think they're coming up within the next, like January 18th or something. There's a bunch at the end of January.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, now we have 2024 Trail to Current application.
Well, I talked to Joe, town manager, and he said it was fine to go ahead and apply. The application's due early February. Joe just wants me to like send a brief email so that he can alert the select board that that application is going to be submitted.
Thank you. Now we have 9-15 Maple Ave, wetland encroachment.
Yeah, and I probably should have pulled that from the agenda. There's nothing new there, so I still need to send out the enforcement orders to the people.
Thank you. How about 2023 annual report?
Yes, we do need to look at that though. It's due end of this week, I think.
Yep.
I actually think it was due today.
Or due today. Well, I heard so Amy told me Friday, Sandy said today, and I was like, well, it's not ready. We haven't voted on it.
Yeah, I think the town's bylaw, it's today. Generally, they don't always get in that early.
Oh no, this looks funny. Hopefully it's going to show the right window. Okay, no, it's not working. There it is. Oh, this looks different. Is that how it appeared in the packet, I wonder? It's funny how I thought it looked, this is not what I thought I had in here. At any rate, look at the packet. First, the packet takes a while to load. But did people have a chance to look at it?
I thought it read fine, Mary.
Okay. Yeah, just so I know, Mike gave some edits and I think it was reasonable. We're still on the bridge. Oh, it still has that. It's funny. Boy, I need to learn how to, anyhow, that's not how it looked. But I'll make sure it looks right when we send it to Sandy. So the main thing I changed was I just got the information about the beavers from Diane. We had last year's information in there. And Mike made some changes. And you can see all the changes in red.
Hey, or actually, Bill, I had some questions about the open space summary. Did the state end up buying Westboro, that 80 acres this past year? Not yet. And when did they buy the Brown property? Was it last year or the year before?
I think it was last year, but I can confirm the year before rather, but I can
Okay,
confirm that.
okay. So just, you know, if they did happen to buy anything last year, it might be nice to just or acquire anything this
Yep, no, I don't
23,
think
it'd be nice to include it.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments on the annual report?
Oh, I had one more thing. Next page, Mary, I noticed something. Yeah, 61A equals 2. Third line.
Yeah. So
Or
that
actually
was,
third line and it's on twice. So I wasn't sure what that is.
why it's on twice.
Is it
Great.
is it
So,
that we commented on 261A withdrawals? Is that what it's trying to say, or what?
yeah, I think so. So maybe we should just pull it from the, I don't know whether we need to have it in the requests or not.
Yeah, I think that'd be great if it wasn't in there.
Yeah. Okay.
It could maybe Bill could include it in his open space report.
So these are the ones that are being pulled out from.
Kelly was one of them. And
Yeah, the Kelly one. So yeah, because they're not really Wetlands Protection Act permitting. So maybe just pull them both from there. Yeah, I'm fine with that. That makes sense to me.
Any other
No, actually, this is Bill. What did happen this year is they bought the AP. We bought the APR, and actually we had a role in that.
That's the one on William Street.
Yep.
Okay. So
Yeah. So Mary, I'll send you a sentence that you can fit in there.
okay. Yeah, that'd be
I'll
great.
do that in the morning.
Yep, that's fine.
All right, great.
And any other comments? Other than changing all the red line to
Yeah.
not.
It's so funny, Chris, because it did not look like this in Word, and I don't know why it translated like this, but it did. Thought I had it all fixed.
Computers are like that.
Yeah.
So, do we have any comments about approving this? With the one sentence Bill's gonna add, and then red lines turned into not red lines. So, do we have a motion to approve the annual report?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Alan, I.
Sandy, aye.
David, I.
Mike, hi.
Okay, that's unanimous vote of the commission. Thank you, everyone, for putting this together, especially Mary and Grace. And we have Swift William, 5-4 Farms, Sierra Monitoring.
Yeah, this is another thing we talked about last meeting, and I wasn't sure if people had follow up on it.
Are we on the hook for writing a letter or drafting a letter?
Yeah, that was in the notes. So
no, someone's got to volunteer. Or we could volunteer Marcella.
No, don't do that to her.
Yeah, she does so much. I wouldn't do that. Anyway, I think the commission is on the hook for a draft letter about those stone walls.
Do you want me to try and put something together?
Yes, please. And we have one Dogwood Drive easement letter.
Yeah, so I think Bill was gonna, the main thing we were waiting on is Bill was gonna see if the DPW cared at all about the utility access at One Dogwood Drive.
Yes, we need to do that. I need to do that. I haven't done that.
Okay, that's
Um, I will try to do that between now and the end of the week.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mechanic Street parking area design.
Plus, Mike, I sent we received an email from Dan from SVT. He was kind of wondering what was going on with Mechanic Street. So I sent him some information. I talked to him a little bit today too, and copied the commission on that email. I think, and Mary, could you pull up the plans?
Sure.
You know,
which one did you?
well, how about one with the trails, and then we can go
Okay.
just so you can all see what he was sent, and we can go to the parking area.
Unfortunately, my computer's being really slow, so it's trying to load your plan. I think I need to stop using this computer. It's just slow.
Well, in the meantime, I made an interesting observation that Mary and Grace and I all have black cats. I guess that's good luck.
I have one too.
Oh, excellent, Marcia. And
So Mary's cat made an appearance today. Chris's has made appearances in the past. Grace, where's your cat?
your cat has come.
He is on the cat tree, which is blurred, but over there. And he's dark gray.
And Sandy has a black and white dog. So Marcella, well, earlier we talked about land stewardship committee, and Bill filled in about the successful building of the bridge. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Nothing beyond what we're gonna discuss around the parking area. So, that's all the latest I got for you.
Excellent. Thank you.
So Mike, you wanted it's a map, right? Not the pictures. There's pictures. Oh, there we go.
You, Mike. Mike, you're muted.
Sorry. So this is Mechanic Street, potential parking area location. Scott flagged the wetlands. I went out there and GPSed the wetlands. There's an intermittent stream that flows along the wetlands. If we were to require a 30-foot wetland setback, there's about a 50 by 60 foot area that could be used for parking. I would guess maybe you could get 3 to 4 cars in there. The area is currently a field, open field. The other thing we could do here if we wanted to was create a small mitigation area. That hatched area, that area is pretty much just vegetated with herbaceous and shrubby vegetation, multiflora rose and things like that. I think it'd be a pretty simple mitigation area to build. I mentioned this to Dan when I talked to him today, and he was interested in it. And basically, it would, if we built that, it would cover us for boardwalk impacts at both the Robertson CR and the Mechanic Street property. And my thought is, if we're going to have someone out there doing grading and working to build the parking area, it would be a really pretty small ad to create like a 400 square foot mitigation area there.
And so Mike, would the trail go directly from there right across the intermittent stream?
Yes, it would. Mary, if you could show the trail map. And there are pictures too that I sent around showing that area. The stream's about 6 feet wide with really no BVW associated with it.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Mike, I have one question. That's more like zoning. Does it have to be setback from the parking line to our parking area?
Sorry, Chris, what was that?
For zoning, does it need to be a setback from the parking line to the park?
Well, I'll punt that question to Marcella, who's had some initial conversations with the planning board about whether we need a site plan review for that. But just to answer Dave's question, location E is a stream crossing, and that would lead from the parking area. And there's 4 other stream crossings that we've identified as part of the trail network.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that with you, Mike. We've talked about having most or not, if not all of those stream crossings be boardwalk crossings. And some of them might be fine as sort of rock hopper crossings. And I think you mentioned that it would not be really great for skiing. Those trails really suck for skiing anyway. I mean, I wouldn't want to cross country ski there. And where the rock hopping could take place, you can go alongside the rocks. It's not, I'm talking about shallow streams. So we may not, I don't know if that has any play in terms of how much mitigation we could get out of. But if it's sort of comes down to
the only one with BVW impacts is D, and rock hopping wouldn't really work there.
Okay.
And A is where we want to. It's that deep channel where we want horses to be able to cross.
Okay.
I don't know. I personally think just it's a little bit more usable by everybody. If someone's walking through there with a kid or something, it's easier for the kid to walk on a boardwalk than step on stones. But and
we have other crossings that are just stone. So
we do. That's true. B and E probably about 16-foot boardwalks, which I'm proposing 2 feet wide, and C is maybe a 12-foot one. I don't know. I mean, plus SVT is, going to be building this, so.
But it is a challenging area to bring materials into, even if you are a strapping young volunteer for SVT. It's not going to be easy for them to bring materials in.
Yeah. D and A are probably definitely need, I think, boardwalks, and E is pretty close to the parking areas, so you could put one there pretty easily. B is, I would think, maybe the best location for rock hopping.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And C is if someone can do long jumps, they could probably do that one. Yeah, it's not very wide.
Would any of these crossings require a filing?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a filing. And that's gonna be another question. NOI or an RF request for determination. If it was just the boardwalks, I would suggest just a request, but the parking area, we're working grading within potentially 30 feet of or wetland. So I think that might require an NOI if we want to treat ourselves like we would probably treat some other applicant.
So can the parking area be separate from the crossings? So that way 2 filings. So one to be a no,
It could be, I suppose.
then the other ones could be RFD.
I'd kind of rather just do them all together, but just to keep it simpler. But
well, if we're doing a filing anyway, we should file for everything probably, just to make sure that we have that option to work on it if we choose to do that sometime in the future.
I think Dan is looking, if you look at the clock, we probably have to make a decision about this in January, so we can get the permitting done and Dan can begin to organize the volunteers and people and groups that are going to be helping to build these boardwalks in the parking area. And one of the key questions to me is, the parking area, do we or do we not need an engineered drawing? And that has 2 components. One is just from a wetland regulation standpoint. What are we requiring? And then the other component is, what would the planning board require, if anything?
Mike, I have a comment about B and C. I feel like those are intermittent streams with no, I feel like I researched this, with no BVW above them. So that would mean they're not jurisdictional by the state. So you wouldn't necessarily need to file for those particular bridges, but I think everything else does need.
But they'd be jurisdictional under the bylaw, right?
Yes, they would be jurisdictional under the bylaw.
Yeah.
But you might want to separate them out. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we could in the application we could make it clear that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. B and C don't have any BVW. Neither does A. D is the one crossing with with BVW, clearly.
So Mary, what would you recommend? Or filing them all together or separate?
I think it can be done either way. Not sure that it really matters unless there's a timeline involved. And as for engineered plans, I feel like, yeah, I definitely see what the planning board wants. But I feel like this project's kind of on the edge of needing engineered plans. Sometimes I've seen in Webster, we did a fair number of notice of intents that were, for like a retaining wall, and they did a sketch plan, but this is a parking lot, but it's just gravel. There is some grading, so it'd be nice to have the engineered plans, but it may not be required. So.
Mary, what I think we could build this without engineered plans. Even the replication area, the creation of it could be described, but I just want to what kind of comments are we going to get from the DP, and do we care what the DP says?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I don't know, especially if you can build the parking without having to raise the grade a lot, if you're just going to be putting, gravel and stuff on top, I think that does not need an engineered plan necessarily. Yeah, I was just thinking of another project that didn't really have very good engineered plans, the 61 Forest, which went through a few years ago. It was basically a sketch on top of a plot plan, and DEP didn't have too many comments on that. Yeah, obviously when you guys put the parking lot in at Rockwood Meadows, there was no engineered plan for that. Of course, there's no wetland nearby, but it's a very simple parking lot. Didn't really need engineering. This one, it has a little bit more slope to it, but I think it's, if you can have a very good sketch plan and a description, you know, oh, we're going to put in 6 inches of gravel and this and that, I think that could be sufficient.
Okay, and I could do something similar for the replication area too. Just describe it. It's so
Yeah.
tiny. It's
The main thing I think for the replication area would be making sure that the elevation of the replication area would match the elevation of the wetland. That's the
yeah.
main thing there.
Yeah. I mean, it could be as simple as you know, take the first foot of topsoil off, stockpile it, take another foot down, put the topsoil back, seed it, a few plantings. It could be really, really simple, you know.
Yeah.
If someone is going to have to do some excavation and grading to build the parking lot, so they'd have the technology on site, you know. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Do we have to ask the planning board about the location of the parking area?
I am not sure. It was just kind of discussed in passing that this might be a change of use. So I'll check in and see if I can meet with the planning board at their next meeting and ask the questions.
Because one question I have, Marcella, is the location of it being adjacent to the property line. I don't know if there has to be a setback.
Oh, okay. Good question.
Do you have other questions?
And, you know, a comment on, I think if this ends up being a fair bit smaller, like 4 parking spaces, I'm not sure that the planning board, whether they'll have jurisdiction over it or, you know, whether it's reviewable.
Okay. Well, we'll have to find that out.
That's a good question.
Are these parking spaces going to be uphill or downhill from the stream?
Uphill from the stream.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I have Sandy, did you see the parking layout that we looked at a few weeks ago?
No.
I can pull that up.
I thought the parking would be on the down below my driveway, down on that end, next to the wet area. It made sense to me that that's where it was going to go. I was a little surprised when I saw it up on the other side. It doesn't matter. It's going to be kind of dangerous on the hill anyway, so. The neighbor's driveway, they almost get hit, you know, once a week coming in and out of their driveway, so.
Well, that's why I'd
mirror
like to,
things up or something.
I would like to have someone come on site and take a look to see what the safety issues might be. People drive pretty fast along that straightway, so.
Right. Somebody just ran over my neighbor's recycling bin today because somebody was walking on the street and they were going so fast they screamed into his bins right there. I mean, that's the driveway just down from that stream. So it's all right. It won't get that much use. You know, I don't see any problems. It doesn't get that much use. It's not like it's 5 people pulling in and out with cars across the street, so a lot of traffic.
Now, where the parking area is higher up than the wetland, so is there a need for having like a swale around the parking area to catch any runoff from the parking area?
Well, Chris, if you took a ride by that spot this morning, you'd have thought so.
Was it all flooded out, Sandy?
Not that particular area, but the water has, there's so much backed up coming under the culvert there on Mechanic Street. And then coming down the side of my property that, it's always very exciting. Sometimes it goes over the road there quite frequently, so. Anyway,
Dennis was here.
I'm sure he knows all about it. It goes over the road there and then it's so much for the road that it jumps the berm and comes across my yard. It's killed my garden again, so. Anyway.
Any other questions about this bridge?
But it is uphill, so probably be all right.
So Mike and Marcella, do you have enough information from us?
Yeah, I think so. I'll get on the next planning board agenda.
Thank
and
you.
what we can work out, what they have to say.
Okay, perfect. Now we have review possible modifications to conservation land use regulations.
Yeah, I don't know whether you guys want to look at that tonight.
Well, some of my comments are there, but one thing that we might want to have a policy on that has come up at the state forest anyways, the use of metal detectors. So we might want to have a policy about that, and talk about speed limits, or how to manage e-bikes, because I don't know if people feel they should be permitted or not. I consider them motorized vehicles, so no, but they're kind of a gray area. So people should just consider what they want to do there.
Can you say something like they couldn't go faster than walking pace, or?
Well, mountain bikes can go as fast as
you just talk about the speed, or whatever.
Well, we could certainly consider the speed limit, but mountain bikes go faster than normal walking pace. And quite honestly, I've seen mountain bikes cruise by at 20 miles an hour, and that's about what e-bikes can do also. So, we can also close off certain trails to mountain bikers altogether, but most of our trails have been inclusive, and I'd like to see speed limits. I don't know what that speed limit should be. Average walking would be, probably no more than 5 miles an hour, if that. I don't walk that fast. Some people might, or jogging. So, if people have suggestions about what speed seems an appropriate one to set speed limits at, but we should consider that there are, horses can go faster, bikers can go faster.
Well, there goes my speed idea.
Well, it's a good idea, but we just need to decide on what the limit is.
Do electric bikes make any noise?
Not any more than regular bikes. You don't really hear the motor. At least I haven't heard the motor.
Right. It's electric.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm really against them then. So.
Yeah, if we have a speed limit, then they really wouldn't be doing any more damage than a mountain biker using.
Right.
But that's, but does that open up the conversation to ATVs and to motorbikes? You know, and how do you police a speed limit? Yeah, I'm not going to stand out there with a radar thing and catch people. Yeah, that it's not really enforceable.
No, none of it's going to be enforceable, really.
Right. But, you know, giving people some kind of guidelines as to speed limits and telling them why. You know, if we put signage up, I'm not sure people understand how much damage it can do to a trail and how, especially motorized vehicles, can frighten the wildlife and can be dangerous. You know, if you're going at a fast speed, then it's not safe for the people who are walking or jogging. So it helps if you give people reasons why, and they might be adhered to a little bit better. But like I said, we need to decide on a speed limit. That's assuming we're in agreement as a committee to go ahead with speed limits. It may not be something that sits well for everybody. I don't know. I haven't really heard any feedback from other commission members.
It might word it that for safety reasons, there's a speed limit of blank miles per hour. So is that giving people enough explanation about why there's a speed limit?
I personally like a little bit more than that, but when you're just, you know, that could be something we could put on signage, on the kiosk, for example. It doesn't have to be in the regulations. So yeah, that would probably be adequate.
Marcella, wasn't there some like distinction between the different types of e-bikes? Like some were like just a pedal assist and some were something different?
Yeah, and I don't really know enough about them to make that distinction, just to look at them. You know, if we call them motorized vehicles, then that's kind of an easy blanket statement to make. I think I can identify an e-bike versus a pedal bike, and call someone out on whether or not they're using a motorized vehicle. But how clear is that? I don't ride, so I don't know how valuable it is for people who ride e-bikes to have access to the trails. Where do they go if they don't have access to trails? Are they fine for road riding? Are they, you know, if I don't like to bump out a user group, but if it's a user group that's doing damage to the trails, then we do have to talk about that. And does allowing e-bikes open the door for you know, motorbikes and ATVs? You know, we can argue that those should be allowed as well, if they go 5 miles an hour, which is sort of not, you know, when you're riding a vehicle like that, your expectation isn't that you're going to be going 2 miles an hour. You know, even on a mountain bike, that's not what the expectation is. So I'm really kind of at a loss for how to, you know, tackle this.
So this is Alan.
Go ahead, Alan.
Go ahead. Okay. So as someone who knows a lot about two wheels, because I'm a mountain biker, I've also been a motorcyclist for 50 years. So I mean, if you want to try and limit the type of vehicle, electric vehicle that's there, you may want to just say that if it's an electric bicycle, that it must have, you know, pedals and a crank. In other words, it must function, right, without the electric portion also. So it has to be able to function as a regular bicycle, and the electric motor is just an assist. That gets you away from approving things that are essentially personal motorcycles, if you will, or electric mopeds. type vehicles. So I think you can make that type of distinction, and that's pretty easy for someone to check if if the police had to get involved with an arbitration on this. But putting a speed limit, I think, is a little tricky because some people can run more than 5 miles an hour. Certainly, some people can, ski more than 5 miles an hour, and certainly anyone who knows anything about mountain biking will certainly want to ride much faster than 5 miles an hour. Otherwise, you'd want to be walking, right? So it's kind of boring there. But I think if you're having trouble distinguishing between different type of e-bikes, I think specifying one that has a crank and pedals and that can be operated without the electric motor is a good distinction, because that's a completely different class than one that I call just sort of an electric moped, which is a much higher class, higher speed type of two-wheeled vehicle.
And what you call an electric moped, does that have any pedals on it? So you could like look at it and go, hey, there's no pedals on that. That must be a motorized vehicle.
That's right. There's no crank that allows you to human power the vehicle. So the big distinction is, can the vehicle be human powered, right, and operate under its own, under human power, as well as have an electric motor assist, or even having a small electric range. But when you get above that class, then there are small motorcycles, electric mopeds. They're basically I think moped is the, to me, maybe that term is not used all over the world, but I think that's a pretty good distinction, because you typically will not pedal a moped.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that does help, and I guess we still need to figure out how to word that, and if there's still, I mean, that's essentially telling me that speed limits are moot, except on, yeah.
I think it's very difficult to regulate, and you can't tell someone on a horse, or even someone who's doing cross country running, that they can only run 5 miles an hour maximum.
Right.
It's I think it would be a regulation that would be nonsensical when you look at the big picture.
Right. Okay. Well, I can certainly take a look and see about wording number 3 in such a way that it is inclusive of pedal assist vehicles, and we can see how that goes. So,
or about the hunting dogs.
Let's see. I think we wanted to word it in such a way that people who were hunting with hunting dogs, that those dogs need not be on a leash, but they should be under local control. So I don't know if putting all that into one sentence makes sense, but that we should certainly word it so that hunting dogs are allowed to be off leash. On town property, with the town we now have dogs required to be on leash. Not just the voice command thing wasn't really working, but if somebody's hunting, then that's likely to be on town land, and we have the right to regulate that. So I don't know if I think Tom had some wording that made sense, but yeah, maybe what's there makes sense. I don't.
Well, isn't the hunting dogs also under the hunting laws? So could we say, except for hunting dogs, per state hunting regulations or whatever?
Okay.
That might.
Yeah, that satisfies making it clear, especially if somebody is a hunter would know.
Right.
whereas the average person will just sort of go, oh, I've got to keep my dog on a leash.
Yeah.
Tom, were you gonna add something, or?
Tom's not here right now.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard his voice pop up.
Okay. But you cannot say.
This is Mike. I would like to make one suggestion for number 7, and that is to delete "and trapping." So it should read "hunting is permitted." I would personally prefer that we didn't allow trapping.
Okay.
And Marcella, for the hunting dogs, I just had an idea for that too. I mean, maybe instead of saying hunting dogs specifically, maybe just except for dogs that are actively, or something like that are actively hunting or being trained. So somebody doesn't get the impression if they have a beagle, they can.
Oh, good point. Yeah. I'll see what the state language is, what Fish and Wildlife have, and might be able to model it on that. But yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, my poodle can hunt. Okay.
How about hunting cats? Cats that can hunt?
Oh, yeah, let those loose. I've got some of those.
Dog.
Did anyone, does anyone want to mull over the concept of having some kind of regulations around metal detectors? Evidently, there's been some problem with that in the state forest, and there are sites there that are kind of sensitive that, are historic sites. I'm not sure we have identified a lot of those sites, but people, digging on town land could, it could get destructive. But
I would support adding a known metal detector line, maybe in 6, or have its own line. But yeah, I would strongly support
excluding them altogether.
Metal detectors.
Okay. Anybody object to that?
No, I agree with that.
So
you could maybe even broaden it to say maybe a language like prospecting, because someone could be taking, material out, not just with a metal detector, but in any other type of
Sure.
means. And you don't want them to take it. The goal is really you can't remove material from the property.
Yeah. Good point. That sounds good. Well, I can go through this again and sort of write it up with the responses that we discussed tonight, and I can bring it back to the next meeting and see, or send it around to people for more comment, and we can make a decision next meeting.
Okay, perfect. I like Ellen's comment about prospecting, because we don't want stone walls either.
Exactly.
So, anything else on this topic?
It's not exactly on this topic, but it's just not on this topic, but this reminded me of something. The Peppercorn Hill Foundation, do we have any more information about what's going on there? We had I may have my committees mixed up, but I think commission talked about it. Somebody was disturbed. There's an old foundation at Peppercorn off Taft Street, and we had a report that somebody was doing something out there, maybe trying to restore the foundation or clean or remove vegetation from it. Marcella, do we have an update on that?
Yeah, I left a note in a baggie before on the shovel. The tools were all still there when I went to drop the note off. Whether or not that note was dislodged, but the note advised whoever was doing the work there to come before the Conservation Commission and before doing more work.
What were they doing there that you could see?
They're actually building the wall up, which and cleaning out. So the vegetation has been, some of it's been cleaned out, and some of the stone wall nearby it has also been added to. So it's not like someone's stealing, historic rocks. They're adding rocks that don't look right. They're not rounded. They're cut, they're kind of jagged looking. But Bill, how high do you think that it's like? It's built up in some places like about a foot high above what the existing foundation was, the height of the existing foundation.
Yeah, I mean, it was a couple of places. It was like 1 or 2 courses of stone, some of which was clearly new. I mean, it had tool marks in it and bright white.
Yeah, there's no moss or lichen on it.
I have pictures.
Was there any evidence that they drove in with equipment, or was it all just foot traffic?
I didn't see any evidence of anybody driving in, but I don't see how they would have gotten the stone in otherwise.
And there's a lot of tools there. It's like multiple shovels and all kinds of stuff. So if this person, and they were in the exact same place they were when Bill and I had visited the site a week prior to my having left the note there. So clearly someone is, it's possible that whoever's doing this has not visited that site since I left the note. And that was before the first really nasty rain. Wait, how many have there been now? Maybe it was the second one.
I have pictures if I could figure out how to share my screen here. Is there a share screen button somewhere?
If you bring your mouse to the bottom of your screen, you should see all these buttons come up and the share screen is green.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But this person has not necessarily found the note. They haven't contacted the Conservation Commission to meet with us or talk to anybody in the office. So either the note has not been found or this person doesn't seem to care or want to deal with it. So
Marcel, I was there a couple of days before this last storm, just checking it out, seeing what was going on there too. And I didn't see a note there. So either they took it or I don't know, fell off.
Okay. I was in a little Ziploc bag and I put it on the shovel. Or one of the shovels. So
yeah, no, I was gone. The shovel, the stuff was still there. The shovel was there, but there was no note there.
Okay. Well, maybe it was found. So I can leave a second note and just to
and the other thing is, I don't know if it was from the previous storm, but there was a pretty large tree across that main road going down before that area. So maybe they won't be able to bring anything else in.
Okay, that must have happened in one of the recent storms because I don't remember seeing that. Well, that would definitely put a damper on things. But darn, now we have to get out there with a chainsaw and get rid of it, don't we? Just when we thought we had our trails clear.
So
Any left, Bill?
It's asking me to change some security, which I have no idea how to do. So
I see. You should be able to, but
yeah,
it maybe not.
I mean, not that I want to prolong the meeting or anything, but you could email them of us.
Yeah, no. Yes, I can email them to you, but not for the purposes of the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just share them with the committee so people can see.
Yeah. I mean, Marcella described it pretty well. There's some tools in the foundation itself, in the cellar hole itself, and at most in the cellar hole, they've cleared some vegetation. There's still full of leaves, but there's really no other growth. And then other than that, they've added, like I said, a couple of courses to stone to probably one or two sides of the cellar hole walls or foundation, and then some on one of the walls that are along the road. I mean, it would take us no time at all to undo their work.
So do any other comments or questions about this topic? So hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Second,
let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Alan, I.
Sandy, I. Good
David,
night,
aye.
everybody.